So this maturity model shows ownership for your team. And as you see, it is maturity and freedom. And what you can do as a leader. So if you have, especially if you have multiple teams, but you can even do it on an individual level. I highly recommend it to use it on an individual level. You first off check your maturity of that person or the maturity of your team. That has to do with knowledge, experience, behaviors, all those kind of things. You need to take everything into the equation to check what their maturity level is. On the upper side, you have your freedom. If your team is really mature, but you give them the least amount of freedom, you will see that your team just becomes completely lazy, uninterested. They wait until you say what to do. That is pretty much the whole "we hire smart people and treat them stupid" kind of reaction. As soon as you give mature people a lot of restrictions and not the mandate to make their own decisions, they will get bored. And that boredomness will show in behavior that they're not becoming the high performance team that you would like to. The other way around goes as well. If you have a really immature team, and that can be a team that is experienced from an individual level, but has never worked with each other, you have a low mature team. If you give them a lot of freedom, as in find out how we are going to create this feature or find out how you guys want to work, you see that the team often reacts in a sort of lost tinkering place. They don't know what to do. So you often see that people start doing their own thing. And you just slowly move away from being a team, and it becomes more a group of individuals that accidentally work on the same table or work in the same area. It is a balance as a servant leadership to find the balance between maturity and your freedom to create ownership in your team. How you measure your maturity can be through 1,000 of assessments that you can find online, but you can also just use your logical thinking. It is not that you need to put it in a performance management cycle to say, hey, see, this is where my team is. It's purely a tool that will help you to view how you as a servant leadership can act to create the best outcome that you want. And that is often ownership and high performance behavior in your team. Like I said, you can also use this on individual level. So if you find yourself more focused on, or you have more challenges with your team, start to look at this as a individual measurement and start having one-on-one conversations and guide people that need more guidance and challenge people that need more freedom to think about solutions and to think about the broader things in life or the bigger things in life. It is every single time that balance. If you use this tool, what I often see and why I've linked it to the fixing it behavior or let it happen, is if you are becoming aware how mature your team is, you start to feel more at ease with sometimes let it happen. And that is where the team can create their ownership. So this tool will often help you before you run into a discussion or before you run into, let's fix this, I will protect the team mode. It will help you to think if that is actually the best way to go or not. If it's high risk, I know you're all smart enough to understand if it's a high risk thing in your organization, you can step in and just definitely not let everything go. But when it comes to a servant leadership to your team, it's often good to find a better balance in that. The last one is more related to yourself. And this one has for me been a hell of a journey to understand. I had a moment in time where I was that type of person that said, yeah, we definitely need to change, but somebody else first goes because I cannot see it happen if that person doesn't change first. Until I found myself in a really bad situation a few years ago where I was completely lost and I felt into a depression. When that happened, a lot of stuff for me became clearer months after being diagnosed with depression, by the way. But what it did for me is that I actually started to understand the core of this quote. I started to understand that if I am not satisfied with what's going on in my life or in my work or at home, I am the only person that can change that situation. There is nobody else that is going to do it for me. So if I want to feel different, if I want to be happy, I need to make a change for myself in order to make those steps towards it. And there is nobody around you who is going to do that. For me, that is absolute key if you are either a servant leader or you are a scrum master or you are a person, to understand what your self-awareness is and where your own behavior comes from. Because the journey that I took was so much focus on understanding where my dysfunctional behavior came from, where my fears, my anxiety, everything, where that came from, where it was rooted into my life and into my normal behavior, to find out how I actually could change it. And I saw with my own eyes what that did. That the way I looked at myself, the way that I looked at my environment, the way that I changed little bits and pieces of my behavior, I saw how it changed people around me. I saw how it changed how I looked at the world. And one thing I've always done as a consultant, as a coach, as a scrum master, is to connect the people aspect to the servant leadership part. If you have low self-awareness or you are not yet ready to face your own demons, it is really, really tough to become a servant leader. We all know the buzzwords around building trust, being vulnerable. We all know it, but it is damn hard to do it ourselves. It is scary to be vulnerable. Yet, if we find a place to be vulnerable to ourselves, we can build that safety net for ourselves to become vulnerable in our workplace, to become vulnerable for our team. And when you find yourself in a position to be able to do that and to show your team members of how to become more self-aware and how to become more aware of behaviors and impacts of it, that is where you can nail your servant leadership. Because in the end, as a servant leader, it doesn't matter which book you have read or which metrics you use or whatever tool or process you integrate in your organization. If you lose track that you're working with people and behavior, nothing is going to change around you.